Hi, I'm Jess Randle, and you're listening to the Talk Harvey to Me podcast.
You said it's 8 a.m. there?
Yes, it's 8 a.m. I'm in Japan.
Japan. What part of Japan are you in?
Okinawa.
Okinawa. Nice.
Yes.
How long have you
It,
been there?
for about 2 years, and then we have one more year left, and then we'll go back to the States.
I got you. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Southern California, Temecula.
Ah, Southern California. Nice. So, are you guys going back to Southern California or?
No, so maybe Washington. My husband's in the Army, so we bounced around a lot. So before Okinawa, actually, we lived in North Carolina.
Did you?
Yes.
So I'm assuming around Fort Bragg.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes from Fort Bragg. I'm in Raleigh.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we would go to Raleigh all the time because what's the surrounding city? I don't remember the surrounding city out of Fort Bragg, but there wasn't much going on, so we would go to Raleigh a lot.
Yeah, it's Fayetteville.
Fayetteville. Yes. Not a lot to do there.
No, I haven't spent much time in Fayetteville. Um, I moved here. I'm originally from the Northeast, so I moved to North Carolina at the beginning of the pandemic. Like I don't know, probably like 30 days before it started, and I haven't done too much exploring because I'm kind of a workaholic. So I just did a lot of working, and then when we first moved here, we checked out a couple places, and then it was like, oh, the world's ending, everything's locked down, don't go anywhere. So we were like, yeah, I guess we'll just walk around the block. So my North Carolina experience is a little limited, but it's getting better lately.
That's almost exactly what happened to us. We got there, I think, 2 weeks before the pandemic, and we had all these grand plans to hike through the what's that mountain range that goes through there? That's really famous, and it stretches through all of like the east.
Oh, the Appalachian Mountains?
Yeah, we were gonna hike the Appalachians and go check out all these hiking spots and stuff. And the pandemic hit. We were just basically stuck in our basement working out all the time.
Yeah. Wow, like, you said that what's that famous mountain range? And I was like,
Yeah, we I'd never heard of it until we started moving there, and then I started looking at things on line and stuff and things to do, and it looked really cool. We love being outdoors and hiking and stuff, so it was something we wanted to do. And they have the whitewater rafting adventures and stuff, but none of that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed living in the Northeast, to living in North Carolina. The quality of walking is so much different. So in the Northeast, got some older towns, but a lot of the houses are like, smushed together. Apparently, land was discovered in North Carolina, I don't know, 5 years ago. It seems like so everything is like brand new, but like every neighborhood has like winding trails, and then you have like the Mountain of Sea Trail, which goes from um, the Atlantic Ocean all the way into the Appalachians, and like there's so many hiking trails, there's so many waterfalls, like there's so much like walking to do, and you hear it all the time in like health and fitness, like, hey, go for a walk a little bit more, and it's like, well, I don't want to go around the block. My neighbor's gonna think I'm weird. Like
Yeah.
here, there's like designated like walking areas that are like all intertwined. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing that I do miss a lot about North Carolina is just the outdoors. Because we would go, like my husband being in the military and stuff, he would go into the woods and ruck and stuff like that, and I would just be able to go run with him with our dogs, and it was just so fun. And here in Okinawa, you can bike and walk around, but like you said, there's just it's just housing and businesses and stuff, unless you go down to the beach, but it's not the same.
Yeah, is structurally is Japan like crowded like that or?
Yes, it is. There is a lot of people smushed into this tiny island, into the little housing areas and stuff. And mainland Japan is pretty much like that too. If you go to Tokyo too and go to the Tokyo Skytree and just look out over Tokyo, it's tiny. It's a tiny place. I mean, Tokyo is big in general, but Japan itself is a small country. But if you look out over Tokyo, it just looks massive just because of how much they've smushed into one small area. But
Yeah.
it's fun. It's amazing. It's really fun to look around and experience that culture, though.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my destinations that I'd love to go to. I love Japanese culture. I'm all about the samurai and stuff like that. I'm sure there's not too many of those around. Are there still?
No, no, we actually we just got back from mainland and we did a samurai museum tour, and part of the tour, it was really cool. We got to throw ninja stars and wear samurai outfits and stuff, but we actually learned about it, and I believe it was in Kyoto. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it was in Kyoto that we did this. And they said that there aren't any more samurai because the last samurai, which was really funny because they said it wasn't Tom Cruise.
Mhm.
That was just um, but this guy, he basically said like, hey, we got to stop fighting because they were fighting the shogun or something like that, and then he retired the samurai, and then there haven't been samurai after that, but there's people with samurai blood in them. I think she said 1/3 of people still have samurai blood in them, if I'm remembering correctly. And but there's technically no samurai because you're not really allowed to have like weapons and stuff in Japan too, so you can't really be walking around with a big old sword. uh, but yeah, it was really fun. If you ever do go to Japan, go to Kyoto. That's been my all-time favorite. It has all of the historic architecture and stuff. You're walking around and there's new architecture and old architecture and really cool castles to look at, and the Torii gates, the famous Torii gates are there too, and that was definitely my favorite prefecture to visit so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will definitely take that recommendation, and I will make it happen. I'll have to see if I can get some of my buddies to come along. Fun fact: in Texas, you can open carry a sword, so there's hope for me yet.
Ooh. So maybe you could be the newest samurai of the 21st century, the first samurai of the 21st century.
Yeah, that'd be kind of awesome to start get a whole clique together. So hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Talk Carby to Me podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, straight from the future, because it is actually tomorrow in Japan. We have Jess, one of my friends from Instagram, big into the carnivore diet. Today, we're going to talk about mainly the carnivore diet, honestly, what the benefits are, who it's good for, how to get it started, what a day in her life looks like, and we'll kind of go through that. Starting off, um, I was reading an article, and Earth is pretty funny right now. Like, Earth is absolutely hilarious, right? So there's this company called the Babylon Bee. It's a kind of a parody publication, right? So occasionally, it's hard to tell if the actual media is making jokes or not. So the reason I bring this up, and I've talked about this a lot, I personally, my view on nutrition and stuff like that is kind of like a holistic view, but like there's room for bullshit in everyone's diet, like to be honest. Um, and I kind of take it from a balanced standpoint for most people. Obviously, there's specific cases where you want to change that. So I was reading an article, and free speech is a hot button topic in the United States right now, and I'm sure that's starting to spread globally. And people are like, hey, we should be able to say whatever the hell we want to say. Uh, on that vein, General Mills actually has run into a free speech issue, right? So the FDA finally has taken a look at their criteria for labeling things healthy or not, and they've decided that they're going to change everything. And what they're looking for is companies to be able to label it healthy food are going to need to have a couple major subgroups added, included in their product to be able to have a label of healthy food, right? So I want to say per serving, it's got to be under 2 grams of sugar. It's got to have something from servings of fruits, vegetables, some dairy. For some reason, they're still pushing dairy. Um, and it actually eliminates about 95% of all cereals that you can purchase. So General Mills they're threatening to sue the FDA for a violation of their free speech in terms of them labeling their food healthy food.
Interesting. That's interesting. Well, I don't know because I mean it depends on who you ask. Like, is that healthy? Like, why does the FDA get to define what healthy is? You know?
Also true.
So like, I don't know. I could see both sides. Like, I do understand like the argument of greenwashing, of pretending something that isn't healthy is healthy. But then like, who gets to set the standards for healthy?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been saying. Because obviously, so someone like myself, I'm in the gym for about 12 hours a week. Spend about, run about 20 to 30 miles a week. So like for me, healthy is different. Like healthy, like I eat a ton of food, and a lot of times, I'll eat the, higher dense calories sometimes. And I'm not the cleanest eater, admittedly, mostly because for my goals, I don't really need to be honest with you. But a lot of people have been saying, hey, diabetic has a different health lens than say a marathon runner would, than a professional athlete would, and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. Um, and what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, that's where I was going. I thought that was pretty funny because a couple weeks ago, Tufts put out a survey, and they had Lucky Charms rated as a healthier food than red meat.
Yeah. No, I've seen that. It's that thing is really interesting. Is what exactly is it? Because I was looking into that, and a lot of people, and I was looking at like the fact checks and stuff about it, and they were saying that it's not technically food recommendation. It was just some sort of school like put it out saying measuring types of food based on their ideas of what healthy is. So I don't know. I was confused about what exactly that was, but I've seen it floating around, and it is absolutely ridiculous that that would even be suggested. That things like Lucky Charms and what else? It's like frosted mini wheats or something like that is
Yep.
whatever. I don't know what cereals names are. I haven't had cereal in so long. Um, the that those are healthier than eggs and red meat and stuff like that. That is ridiculous, but I don't think it was an actual suggestion of what people should eat, if I remember correctly. But I didn't look into it too much because I didn't really care because I'm not going to listen to it anyway.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. It's their food compass.
Yeah, the food compass. Because I was looking, I I was interested in it, but the more I looked into it, I was like, oh, is this really like some what everyone as bad as everyone's saying? Because the more I looked into it, I think it was like some school just did something based on their what they think is healthy, and then it started floating around, but I don't know if is it a government recommendation?
No, it's just from a university.
Oh, okay.
So Tufts University, basically what it is
Oh,
they put out this. Huh?
it's Tufts University. Is that an actual school, or is it just called Tufts University?
Oh no, that's an actual school.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I'll give you the exact verbatim explanation from their website. Right. So their food compass is a novel food rating system developed by researchers at Tufts University. By evaluating foods across 9 domains and using a unique algorithm to determine a score, we can assign a food compass score between 1 and 100, with 100 being the most healthful to nearly any food. So if you actually look at the scale, right, the healthiest food that they looked at, and again, they didn't really put out like, did we look at everything? Did we just look at some things? We have frosted mini wheats with a score of 87, right? So 100 is the healthiest. Frosted mini wheats is number one, followed by Great Grains double pecan whole grain cereal, 84. Then you have banana nut crunch, shredded wheat honey nut, almond crunch, and raisin bran round out all the green ones. And if you scroll through, it's a bunch of honestly, it's a bunch of processed foods. Like Fruit Loops comes in at a 45, Cinnabon comes in at a 42, and then you have an egg fried in butter at a 29. Right, again, 100 is the healthiest. Cheddar cheese is at a 28, and ground beef cooked on their list is a 26, the lowest food that they looked at on this compass.
That's insane. That's crazy. Who I would be interested to know who funded that, because it sounds like just a bunch of companies that make a lot of money in America, so they probably funded that saying, "Hey, find some good information for us so we can sell our product."
Yeah,
Do you know who Nina, oof, I always forget her last name and I always say it wrong, but she wrote The Big Fat Surprise. Have you ever read The Big Fat Surprise?
I have not.
That book is amazing. You should read it. It goes through the she's an investigative reporter, and she started looking into something else and then stumbled upon the world of nutrition and the world of why fat is being vilified in America. And she goes through the whole history of why, who, when it started. It's very interesting. And basically, she speaks in front of Congress and stuff a lot. I believe so. And she's said before that when she talks to them one on one, they pretty much agree with her, but their states make their living selling these grains and stuff. So they can't, as a representative of that state, say grains are bad for you and grains are causing X, Y, and Z, because then it hurts their state. So she's basically talked about like how people pretty much know the truth, but because it goes against their interest and their state's interests, that they pretend like these things aren't happening and that they are good for you because it makes their state money. So it's all, I think all of the nutrition, everything, it's like you just got to do your own research and got to figure out what works for you, and just know that whatever people are telling you, they usually have some sort of like invested interest and are telling you something for a reason, or it usually revolves around money or something like that. So I think people just need to be vigilant about that when they're making their.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I just looked it up. Yeah, so it's the Big Fat Surprise. Yeah, and I don't blame you for not being able to say her name. It looks like Nina Teicholz or
Oh
Teicholz,
yeah, like Teckles or something like Teckles.
Teicholz, something like that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, and this theme applies to literally everything currently, and it's funny that you shed light on our government officials, the people that we elect. If you follow money in everything, you end up at one place, or two places, I should say, and that place is BlackRock and Vanguard. They own every single company. They're the majority shareholder, other than the ones that obviously are private. But anything that you can have a shareholder, they're invested in every single one of them. And a lot of times it is unfortunate. They donate to campaigns, they donate to institutions. We did an episode where we were talking about the Academy of Dietetics, which does is basically the educational board for registered dietitians in the United States. They're funded by major corporations like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny to see the parody. And when you look at it and you're like, wow, I just follow this money trail, where does it go?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things that are happening with food and agriculture are the same way, especially with some of the things that are happening lately. So, uh, my buddy on the last episode, we had a conversation. We were kind of getting to talk about cows and how cows fart, and that's what's causing climate change, which is a hilarious topic to go through. Like how you got there, beyond me. But that's the thing that's currently happening here in the U.S. Obviously, we've been dealing with inflation for various reasons that probably not going to go into because this is an economic podcast. But one thing that was super affected by it was eggs. And at some places, you had the price of eggs up at 18 cents a dozen, or excuse me, $18 a dozen. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. On the other hand, right, and most of that, if you were to look into why that was happening, it's a combination of inflation. You also have a combination of um, the avian flu, which apparently was going around, which killed about 57 million chickens. And apparently, which I didn't know, if you have, say you have like 10 chickens and one of them gets sick, you have to kill all the chickens, even if the other ones don't have symptoms. I didn't know that. So that probably attributed to the death toll. And conveniently pops up Bill Gates funded Just Egg, I believe is the company. Um,
Oh yeah.
it's not Just Egg. It's an egg substitute company similar to Beyond Meat. Pops up just in time for, hey, I could save us from the egg crisis.
Interesting. It all seems to be connected in some way to each other. And I feel like some people, I mean, you kind of sound like a conspiracy theorist when you talk about these things, and you start to notice patterns of how it's all connected. But some people will get it, and some people will think you're crazy, and you just got to keep just making the best choices for you, I guess, and just trying to help people. If some I always have this thing that I say where you can't save everyone, and I believe that. Like, some people are going to listen, some people are going to search for answers and find the truth, and some people won't, and they'll just continue to be doing what the government tells them for the rest of their lives, and good luck to them for that. But I don't know, like, part of me like feels bad, and part of me is like, hey, the truth is out there if you want to find it. It's just up to you. It depends on how much you're interested in finding it. Like, I'm not to get biblical, but like in the Bible, I don't, it's like seek and you shall find. So like if you're looking for something, you're gonna find it. Which I guess could be good and a bad thing, because then you would just find things that you want to see. But I don't know. Life is interesting. I think I'm found something that works pretty well for me. But
Yeah, a lot of people have said the carnivore diet has worked wonders. And quick correction on what I was saying. So the company is Hamden Creek Foods, and what they're making is called Beyond Eggs.
beyond it.
Yeah, so you got the Beyond Meat. I think they're coming out with Beyond Lobster, Beyond Crab, Beyond Fish.
Ooh. And the ingredients probably just so clean. Such soybean canola oil, beetroot for coloring, and
Yeah, the ingredient list for Beyond Meat is so long.
have you compared dog food yet? Have you done that thing where you compare Beyond Meat ingredients to dog food and you can't tell the difference?
Really?
You haven't done that yet? Yeah.
I
There,
haven't seen that.
yeah, and there's a ton of memes, or I don't know if it's just one that gets circulated a lot, but it's the ingredients for Beyond Meat, and you put it next to just an ingredient list for dog food, and the ingredient list for dog food actually looks more appetizing than the ingredient list for Beyond Meat.
All right, so I'm going to subject us to me attempting to read the ingredients from Beyond Meat. But yeah, I'm going to have to check out the dog food one. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. All right, so we have water, pea protein, expeller pressed canola oil, refined coconut oil, rice protein, natural flavors, dried yeast, cocoa butter, methyl cellulose, less than 1% of potato starch, salt, potassium chloride, beet juice color, apple extract, pomegranate concentrate, sunflower lecithin, vinegar, lemon juice concentrate, vitamins and minerals, in parentheses, zinc sulfate, niacinamide, vitamin B3, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, and calcium. And peas are legumes, and people with allergies to peanuts should be cautious when introducing this. Um, that is quite a long list.
Yeah. Now you should pull up. Do you know who Judy Cho is?
I do not.
So she has this blog. It's called Nutrition, or her handle is Nutrition with Judy, and she wrote Carnivore Cure, and she has a Nutrition with Judy blog where she has all these different meats and animal products broken down, and she has all of their essential vitamins and minerals that they contain. So you should pull up Judy's one for, I think, ribeye. I think she does ribeye, and the ingredients are literally just beef, and then it has all the essential vitamins and minerals that are contained within it. And I just don't know if, when you put those two side by side, I don't know how anyone could ever argue that fake meat is healthier than real meat that has one ingredient and contains almost all the essential vitamins and minerals that you need.
Yeah, it's a wild kind of thing. Hold on, let's see here. So I got her talking about ribeye.
It's
Hold on.
I think if you search Nutrition with Judy, uh, uh, be ribeye, vitamins and minerals in ribeye. I can look into it too, because I might actually have it saved, because I use it all the time. I love Judy Cho. She's so brilliant.
Uh, yeah, I'm seeing the ribeye one. I'm not
Oh yeah,
seeing the.
the ribeye. She has ribeye. She does eggs, butter, lamb chops, pork. She has it for almost every carnivore food that you can eat, and it has all the the list of essential vitamins and minerals that are in them. And then at the bottom, she has what's missing, and then what foods will contain those vitamins and minerals that are missing, so you can add those foods into your diet. It's very helpful.
So for ha-has, since you brought it up, I'm on Target's website and I'm looking. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm looking at Blue Diamond dog food for chicken dinner. It actually sounds more appetizing than what I just read off.
I told you.
Right. So, uh, mind you, I don't have a dog currently, but Blue Diamond seems like they're a decent brand. Don't come for me, PETA, if I'm wrong. Um, just going through the ingredient list: chicken broth, chicken liver, carrots, peas, sweet potatoes, brown rice, barley, oatmeal, guar gum, potassium chloride, salt, flaxseed, blueberries, cranberries, carrageenan, cassia gum, zinc amino acid chelate, iron amino acid chelate, choline chloride, vitamin E, copper, magnesium amino acid, chelate again, niacin supplements, so vitamin B3, right? Same thing. Calcium, vitamin B5, same thing. Vitamin A, riboflavin, biotin, vitamin B12, potassium, B6, D3, folic acid, B9. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's hilarious. That actually sounds all better. Like, if you were to just chop that up and just eat that, like, don't look at the dog can, that's gonna be better for you than a Beyond Burger. That's wild.
Yeah.
And the dog looks happy.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest thing with veganism because I always get people always come at me like why you hate vegans so much? Why do you always talk about vegans? And I don't hate vegans, but what irks me is that veganism is being pushed as healthy. Like if it was just some diet that people are doing and they know that it's because people usually choose veganism because they think it's healthier, they think it's better for the environment, they think that they are saving animals. It's not healthier for you. It's not better for the environment. You're not actually saving any animals. So like but it's pushed as that. So like that's what irks me. And you have people like Kim Kardashian who are huge influencers pushing this as a healthy diet, and that's just wrong. It's inaccurate. So of course I'm going to call that out and call out the absurdity of the vegan diet. I'm not saying vegan people are stupid, but the vegan diet is a lie. Like, so like why wouldn't I keep continue to call that out? So that it just doesn't make sense to me. Like when dog food is more appetizing than a Beyond Burger, like of course that can't be healthy. That cannot be a healthy alternative. Or even
Yeah.
Oreo. Like you can cuz like cutting a lot of people see good results when they go vegan because they start cutting out a lot of shit out of their diet. But like the Oreos are vegan. So like you can still do veganism and eat really bad food. So I don't know. It irks me that it's pushed as healthy and good for the environment and all that stuff. Where I if we knew the truth, if everyone knew the truth about veganism and people still wanted to do it, hey, good for you. Have at it. Eat your leafy greens. But that's not the case. In most cases, they believe a lie, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think I think it's gone down like that for a lot of reasons. So everyone has I think humans have these pillars in their life, and one of them is spirituality, right? And one of the ways that the most common way that we're familiar with that being expressed is through religion, church, and whatever your belief system and stuff like that. I think it's pretty safe to say if you look around the world, society's drifted away from that. I myself, I'm not overly religious, to be honest with you. But if you go up my family as far as previous generations, they were. But as we got farther and farther away from maybe like my grandmother and great grandmother, we drifted away. People don't realize it, but that void still exists, and they fill it with other things. So for me, for instance, it's probably sports. Honestly, it's like sports and fitness. It's probably the thing that's like if I had a religion of my own, it'd probably be that. For some people, it's become incredibly political, right? Which just go anywhere, watch TV, go on Twitter, it's all there. For other people, it becomes this tribalism thing, which has tribalism has its purposes, right? Everyone kind of has their tribe. You have your people, you like to interact with your people, but it's become kind of like that ideology of veganism, and like it's a diet that has worked for some people and doesn't work for other people.
Yeah.
If you eat like shit all the time and suddenly you start eating vegetables,
You're going to
you're gonna feel a little bit better. Your body's gonna be like, oh my god, a vitamin, like yay. And people don't forget that people forget that that's like one of the pillars, and like some people that's been replaced. And I think the unfortunate thing, I think this is our society as a whole. It's very rare that we see here's option A and here's option B. Option A can do this for you. Option B can do this for you. That's how it should be when you have when you're presented with choices. And you can read as much into that as you want, especially with the state of 2023 currently in the news. But instead of saying option A, option B, here are the good things about them, you pick. It is option A does this, and option B is the worst fucking thing imaginable.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
just vilify everything. So it's like, if you're not vegan, how dare you? Like, you're gonna die, and like you're gonna spontaneously combust. And you see it in fitness all the time, and that's something that kind of what you're hitting the nail on the head there with that.
Yeah, everyone, I feel like just with social media too, it's kind of heightened. Everyone just feels like they have to be right all the time. And they have to be,
Mm.
but especially online, you have to be the expert. You have to present yourself as the expert and you have to be right all the time and have to know everything. And even if you get something wrong, you have to pretend like you planned that for some reason and that and then it wasn't actually wrong and you spin it in a way that makes it seem like you were actually right. Um, and I think that that is a dangerous thing where people are just so scared to be wrong because they're scared to look stupid, and then everyone online is going to be like, "You're dumb," and then you disregard everything else they say because they got one little thing wrong. So I think the definitely the era of social media hasn't helped that and hasn't helped people being able to like think critically and have nuanced thinking. But it's definitely a reality of where we are in the world. And I think that as long as you're aware of that, you can make informed choices and understand that you can follow someone and not completely agree with them 100% and just take nuggets of information that you do agree with, and maybe you'll learn something new, maybe you won't. But it's very weird how polarizing we are now, where you have to agree with someone 100% of the time and completely disagree with the other side 100%. um, it's sad, but that's kind of how humans are. So as long as you're aware of it, I think you can live your life pretty balanced. But human nature in general, I think as a whole, I don't think we'll ever get to a point where we can really be balanced because it's human nature to go to one extreme or the other. So I think on a personal level you could do it, but as a whole, I don't think the world will ever be balanced.
Yeah, definitely not. And it's unfortunate too because I I'm kind of obsessed with the concept of like learning and getting better at my craft, whatever it is. So I've had various careers. I wasn't always a trainer. Um, I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I'm doing. And if you are of average intelligence in any field, with the exception of something that is very objective, but for the most part, most things aren't going to be that way. It's very hard to, like, you never quite get there because you get to what is perceived as maybe this is the limit, and then something comes along that changes that. And what a past result isn't always going to indicate future success in things. And industries change, the world changes, belief systems change, what's actually true changes, based on new discoveries and stuff like that. So it's almost like this never ending track. And it's unfortunate because with the world being like that, so polarizing, if, like, say right now I were to happen to say, hey guys, like, welcome to the show, I got Jess with me today, we're going to talk about how the sky is red. The reaction to that would be, "You guys are morons," instead of like, "Hey, like, wait, why do you think the sky's red?" And then I explain it, and they're like, "Oh, you're actually wrong. Like, here's like, let me teach you something." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's blue, and I've learned something,"
Yeah,
which would help so many issues that we have. But instead, it's just like, "Oh, stay wrong, but you're also a moron," and it's like, oh,
yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate, but oh well. At least we have these. I guess that's where the free speech thing would come in, of but that we can still talk things out, and the people who are interested in learning something can search this out and listen and decide if they agree or disagree. So at least we have some sort of free speech.
yeah. And it, like, the true purpose of it is like to learn things,
Hmm.
especially even if you look at like the darkest of dark corners of free speech, and there's some wild people out there, like, even that, like, they just might be ignorant to reality, and honestly, in some respects, or they might not understand something, or they might some traumatic experience that has shaped them in one way or another. Like, even those people who would generally be deemed as assholes, like you could redeem them somehow with some, maybe it's an educational thing. Some people are just going to be, that way, but there's a lot of things from an educational standpoint that it would open up. So yeah, so we're talking about the carnivore diet. So we kind of hinted obviously at the direction that we're kind of going here. So what is the carnivore diet? Like what's an easy way to explain like what the carnivore diet is?
Carnivore is eating meat and animal products. Any type of meat, land or sea, and then animal products like dairy, eggs, things like that. That's it. And then you can drink. You technically you drink water. A lot of carnivores though drink coffee, tea. I drink decaf coffee still. So the pure carnivore purists, they don't think that I'm really carnivore because I still drink coffee, but I'm not that dogmatic about it.
Well, you have there's a couple different versions if I'm not mistaken, right? So you have like the carnivore diet. I've also seen like the lion diet get promoted. Um,
The lion diet is ruminant meat, salt, and water. So carnivore is any meat, land or sea, and then lion would just be ruminant, and then salt and water.
and ruminant for those listening is
So it's like a cow has the multiple stomachs, and it's able to like filter the meat and all of the nasty things that are in it. Whereas like a chicken and a pig doesn't have those multiple stomachs. It's like monogastric or whatever it's called. So and all of the uh, things that aren't necessarily good for you are going to still be in that meat because they can't really filter it out. Whereas ruminants can. So people who have like serious autoimmune issues, like Michaela Peterson, is on the lion diet, and they usually benefit from eating ruminants only because the meat is a little higher quality.
okay. That makes sense. So that'd be like a super gross oversimplification would be like a slap chop versus a full food processor, right? As far as like digestive process, it's more efficient. It's more done thoroughly.
Yeah, the meat is just gonna be a little better, especially because like in the United States, if you're just going to the grocery store and getting like regular chicken or regular pork, those that chicken and pork might be fed like corn and soy and things like that. So if you have like bad reactions when you're eating corn and soy, then you are gonna stay away from chicken and pork versus a cow isn't beef isn't going to give you that reaction. So yeah, it's a better filtering system. Ruminants have a better filtering system.
Yeah. So how like what led you down to the to get to go on the carnivore diet? Like how did you find out about it? Like what kind of brought you like to where you are now?
So I grew up having really bad gut issues. So that was my main thing. Had chronic constipation. I would go to the bathroom maybe once every like 3 weeks. It was really bad, and I did
Holy
that.
shit.
Yeah, and it was not fun. I had always just constantly had a bloated stomach. I wasn't really fat, but just I was full of shit. So I could never lose weight. I was always uncomfortable. Like I don't know if you've ever been constipated before, but if you're constipated, that's literally all you can think about. And it's the most frustrating thing. It literally changes your personality because you're just can't think of anything else but trying to shit. Um, and so for almost 19 years of my life, I just was constipated. And just I thought that was normal. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so that you didn't really talk about poop in the 90s, especially like not even with your family. So no doctor ever asked me about my bowel movements. They just would always say, eat more fiber, take this fish oil pill. Nothing ever worked. One doctor gave me some sort of something that I would put on toast in the morning. So it was supposed to be some vitamin to help me, but I was eating a gluten toast, so it wasn't doing good. So I was chronically constipated for almost 19 years of my life, and then because of that, I had a horrible immune system. I was sick all the time, constantly on Z packs, and now we know that like prescriptions like that can like increase your risk of like depression and things like that.
Mm.
Just like minorly going on prescriptions, but I was constantly on Z packs. So I did have like some like issues with depression and stuff. I tried to kill myself when I was a kid. one time, but I wasn't successful, thankfully. And then that was the only time. And, but I was
Congratulations.
I know, yeah. I was severely depressed, hated my life, hated my body, hated everything, had acne, was overweight, would go to the dermatologist and they put me on Accutane. That didn't work. I just got even more traumatized from that, and who knows what it did to me internally. It didn't get rid of my acne; it just made my skin really dry, so I looked like an I had a bunch of pimples and dry skin, so it was just even worse. And then I got put on birth control. The birth control just made me gain more weight. So, long story short, when I was 19, I developed a mistrust for doctors. But when I was 19, I went to a homeopathic doctor. We kind of figured out that I was allergic to gluten. I got off gluten, was gluten free for 10 years, but still had some issues with my gut and acne and things like that, and mood swings. I had horrible mood swings. I thought I was bipolar, but never got diagnosed with anything. And then my husband, thankfully, I was just, it was so bad where I would wouldn't be able to leave the house if I put makeup on or something and I didn't feel like it covered my skin well enough. I would have a complete mental breakdown, and I wouldn't be able to leave the house until I felt confident enough to go outside. And it sounds crazy, but like those things are connected to what you're eating. Like your mental health is connected to what you're eating. And I thought I was just destined to have my life be like that. And then my husband found the Joe Rogan Sean Baker podcast where he talks about the carnivore diet, and he said, "Hey, just listen to this. This kind of sounds like things you're going through. If you want to try it, like I'll do it with you." And I listened to the podcast. He made a lot of sense, and at that point, I thought to myself, like, I've literally tried so many medications, so many different diets. Nothing has worked. Nothing has changed. Um, so what do I have to lose? I did carnivore for World Carnivore Month, January 2020. I lost 20 pounds in 1 month.
Whoo!
Yeah, my skin started to clear up. My gut issues started to heal. My mood swings started to go away. I started to get more confident. My like mental health, my physical health, everything just like started improving. And I was just kind of convinced at that point. I didn't really need any more convincing than that. Because I've tried so many things and nothing ever worked. But carnivore basically healed all of the issues I ever dealt with my whole entire life that nothing else ever healed. So I was convinced that that was the thing that I needed to do, and I've been doing it since January 2020.
Yeah, that is wild. I couldn't imagine. Honestly, like, power to you for sticking through that.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine.
I poop like a champ.
It's funny, like, we've mentioned poop quite a bit, on this podcast. As a nutrition coach, I like going in, I never really noticed. I never really figured like, hey, you're probably gonna talk to every single client that you ever speak to for the entirety of your nutrition or fitness and nutrition career about poop. And I was like, oh, that's it becomes a huge topic actually. But that's insane. Like 3 weeks?
Yeah, no, it was not fun. I It was so painful, and I thought that was normal. It was so sad. No one ever told me that you were supposed to be going to the bathroom like once a day, or maybe because on carnivore it's common for people to not go every day, maybe like every other day, something like that. But I I thought that that's everyone was experiencing that. It was, and my mom, like when I was younger, my mom would sometimes have to like come in the bathroom with me, and I would just be crying, and she'd hold my hand, and it would just be like the most painful experience, and I'd be like bleeding and all that stuff. And I always would joke that like God was just preparing me to have twins at some point in the future, so I could just like get like the feeling of pushing a lot some massive quantity of shit out of my body. But yeah, no, it was not fun. And I know that that's probably not what childbirth is like. I've never had kids, so I don't know. But like it's I ugh. I don't think anyone should ever experience that level of constipation. And I would try everything, like those, those like those things. I don't even know what they're called anymore. But they like, oh my god! But you like stick them up your butt, and you like wait 30 minutes, and then you're supposed to like it's supposed to like flush your system.
An enema?
An enema, yeah. So like, I would try those. Nothing. It wouldn't work. I never had diarrhea like a day in my life. Like I did not know what that was. I was just my body just was constipated for 19 almost 19 years of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not have a normal bowel movement like my entire childhood.
Wow. So you brought up diarrhea and never having it. I'm the complete opposite of you. I don't know why. I think if I were to look back at my life now, there's a couple things. One, from a lot of my life, like I've been all about Taco Bell. Like if there was an opportunity to live Moss, you better believe I was taking it. But when I was younger, I know what it is now. But when I was like in elementary school, middle school, I had such bad anxiety that I would just show up somewhere in public and I would instantly have diarrhea almost every single day. If we went to a restaurant that I hadn't been to, diarrhea. It didn't matter if I ate like something plain, anything like that. So I feel you on the opposite end of it. Obviously, mine was probably less painful than what you're describing. But yeah, that's insane. So yeah, with childbirth, be in your future, you're already good to go.
Hopefully, like that, it'll be worth. Like I get it crosses over, and I have some sort of like mental awareness of like what to expect in pain wise. But maybe not. Maybe I'm just delusional. But hopefully, it'll have been worth it in some degree to experience all of that.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's hope. So yeah, and you touch on a key thing. I mean, there's obviously you see a lot of TikTok pages and a lot of like social media stuff. Like, oh, I never knew like this random, seemingly everyday task like is a normal thing. Like I always thought of it this other way, and like you kind of figure that out. But I think it just shows when you look at the nutrition world, how little time we spend talking about it. Pretty much, honestly, it's probably almost every single uh, diagnosis is food related these days. Like if you actually like dive into it,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, the funny thing is, I've known plenty of people with horrific autoimmune diseases, and what they get prescribed is to go on this like extreme vegan diet.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, that's basically I would always be told just to, like to eat more fiber, and take like random supplements and things like that. And then when I would get sick, they'd put me on like antibiotics. But fiber, I can't eat fiber. Like I mean, the human body doesn't really digest fiber. So when you eat a lot of fiber, it just kind of sits there. So it makes your poops bigger, but it doesn't necessarily make you poop. It just makes the mass of poop larger, because your body's not really digesting it. So I was just like constantly eating fiber, and most of my diet was fiber. For the longest time, before I went gluten free, I obviously was eating wheat and stuff. But even after, my most of my diet consisted of like fruits, vegetables, and the only meat I would eat was white meat chicken and some fish, and that was it. I didn't have any sort of fat in my diet, which now is the reason that I am going to the bathroom so well, is because I'm eating like tons of fatty meat and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just I think some people do well with fiber. Like my husband, he can eat whatever he wants and he doesn't have any health issues and he's fine and he doesn't have any issues. But some people just aren't like that. And I'm one of those people. Like I cannot eat fiber. It just, my body does not react well to it. I need the fat. I don't need the leafy greens.
Hmm. Can you imagine what it would be like if you never came across that podcast?
No, I mean, I'd probably be divorced because I had serious mood swings. I was unstable. I was unstable person. Just we would fight and I would yell, and so I'd probably be divorced. I'd still have acne. I'd still be 20 pounds overweight that I just couldn't lose because I was working out 6 days a week, doing cardio, lifting heavy, eating healthy. I couldn't lose weight. My skin never got clear. I just was constantly up and down, emotional roller coaster. So it would just probably still be that and just be really unhappy and think that the world was just out to get me.
Yeah. So that it's a crazy thought, right? And the reason I bring it up is I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and there's probably about a good billion of maybe half a billion of them that kind of are going through some, if not all of it, kind of like what you're kind of experiencing.
Yeah. Is why it's so powerful to be on these platforms and share my story, but I always encourage other people to share their stories too, because my story isn't going to be the same as someone else's story. So we need everyone to like share what's happening so other people can hear it and relate to it and say, hey, maybe this will help me, and give it a shot and see what happens. Because I mean, I think the opposite too, of like, not, I don't necessarily think like, what if I never found it, but I always think of, what if I found it sooner? What would my life be like? That's the thought
Right.
in my head of like, what if I found this when I was a kid? Or like, what if my parents found this when I was a kid? They put me, they stopped feeding me gluten, and they stopped um, feeding me so much fiber and started feeding me more fatty meat. Like, what? How would my life have been different? So that's the thought, and it's not healthy. It's definitely not a healthy thing to think about the past in that way. But I always, that's why I like sharing, because it's like I could get to someone sooner and hopefully help someone sooner than later.
Oh, for sure. And absolutely. And I'm a big believer in that too. And that's one of the reasons I got started podcasting. Uh, and you go through and you kind of talk about things, and like I think it's such a like a niche world that like we don't really realize like how, for lack of a better term, uneducated people are when it comes to what they eat, how to eat, what's the recommendations and things like that. We're so programmed, be it from habits from being a younger kid, um, that we don't really understand kind of what it is. Like, to be honest with you, I wasn't very fit or healthy until I was about 27. Granted, I was in the National Guard in Massachusetts for about 6 years. Um, and so I could run, I could do push-ups and stuff like that, but I didn't really hit like fitness peak until, 27, 28. And I'm still a firm believer in that fitness and nutrition is the fountain of youth. So I'm still kind of peaking. Like, people could say what they want. I'm 35. I just turned 35. I'm stronger than I ever have been. I look younger than I have been than I have a while. Like, I was looking at a picture when I was 22, and I actually look younger than I did when I was 22. And when I was 22, I ate whatever the hell. I drank a lot and stuff like that. Um, but I have this belief too, where like if you interact with folks and you can teach them to approach a healthy lifestyle the correct way through exercise, whether it be in the gym, whether it be movement, whether it be something they enjoy that gets them active and moving around, and you pair that with good nutrition that kind of puts them in a position to be the best version of themselves, they then in turn are going to interact with the world in a much more positive way, and then they can shed that light. And I'm not so much a believer in world peace per se, but it kind of goes along those lines where like imagine if everyone was just like, holy shit, like I don't have any of these issues going on and I'm good to go. And like, I
Yeah.
feel so much better. Like if everyone was like that, like a lot of things would be completely different. So it's good that you're sharing your story and kind of going through, and like hopefully it does reach people like much sooner, and they can find a resolution like almost instantly rather than just being medicated to the gills.
Yeah, especially women, because I think it's more common for women to like try these diets, these extreme diets, so that they can lose weight and things like that. And like just teenage, like young women, like you, because like the vegan diet is really, really like popular with like young females and things like that. So I want to try to like normalize like women eating fatty red meat, because like fatty red meat is just like this masculine thing in people's minds. And a lot of people have asked me too, like, doesn't eating meat make you aggressive and make you more manly? It's like, no, it makes me human. But people have that like misconception that like red meat is only for men. So I like I want to show women like you can eat red meat. You don't have to eat a salad. Like, and don't pretend like you like that salad. Like I've been there too. Like you don't really like that salad. um, but I'm maybe you do. I don't know. But I know that I don't miss salads at all. Especially if there I have a choice now between a salad and a steak. Like you better believe I'm going for that steak.
100% of the time.
like so I just wanted to like be that like be out there too, just like and encourage women to share their stories, just to show other women that like it's okay to eat meat. And especially like with the weight the workout thing too, because like women are like, I'm gonna get bulky if I lift weights. It's like you can
Oh
eat,
man.
yeah, you can lift weights, you can eat meat, like do it. You don't need to be this like delicate little like broken thing. Like you can still be like strong and feminine. So that's my goal.
Yeah, could you imagine if eating red meat just made you like super aggressive?
Yeah. Yeah, believe that people believe that they think red meat makes you really aggressive and manly.
Yeah, which is insane. Um, if that was the case, everyone in America needs red meat, honestly.
And I did see too like this statistic, because you were talking about the if everyone just kind of ate better, that the world would be a happier place. I think it said like 70% of Americans or something like that are on some sort of like antidepressant, or I don't know if it was 70, but the stat was insane of like how many people. Um, and it's just like people tell me my diet's unhealthy, but I'm not depressed. I'm not on any zero medication. No, not depressed anymore. No mood swings. It's like I struggle to believe that what I'm doing is unhealthy when I feel so much better than I did before. And what I was doing before is what is deemed healthy in modern society. So I just I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
I think it's something insane. It was like 70% of Americans are on some sort of prescription medication. I don't know if it was necessarily for depression specifically, but it was like some sort of prescription or something like that. Like an insane amount of Americans are on some sort of medication. And a lot of carnivores, when they go on the carnivore diet, they start getting off their medications. So I do not believe that it's a bad diet, that it's a bad choice for humans.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it. I know it's really high. It is, I believe it's over 70
Real
percent.
wow.
Da. Yeah, it's close to it's between 70 and 80.
Dang, yeah.
Judging by the numbers that I'm looking at, again, that might be a little bit of error in there, but oh yeah, it's absurd. It's an absurd thing. We are so reliant. Our healthcare system is fucking terrible. We literally there's nothing preemptive that we ever done in terms of health and fitness. I'll share a story on this same vein since we're talking about it. So my mother, right, very old school. She's not the most unhealthy person, but she's also not the healthiest person. She doesn't have a ton of healthy habits. But she goes to the doctor, and like, so I, being a nutrition coach, like I work with her. I try to make some improvements and things like that. And we talk all the time. And she kind of tells me, "Oh, like I'm feeling this," and I'm like, "Oh, well, check this out, check that out, and try to make this change here, and maybe get a little bit more protein in her diet." She goes to her doctor, right? So I can easily see like, hey, you're a little overweight. Like, we need to work on that. We need to get you moving more, get some sunlight. You live in the Northeast. Seasonal depression is a thing. You don't sleep very well. Um, and we kind of go through, and she goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Oh, you're in great health. Maybe just bring your cholesterol down a teeny tiny bit, and you'll be good to go." So, one about I shit you not, literally like 2 weeks later, she has like a cardiac incident. She didn't have a heart attack, but she thought she was having a heart attack, and so she had to be taken to the emergency room. They had to run all these tests, and she got diagnosed with SVT, which is supraventricular tachycardia, which is like a flukier version of arrhythmia. It's rare in older folks. It's usually common in younger athletes or younger athletic populations. So she's good to go now. But it was just that juxtaposition where it's like here you have like facts, And then it's like boom, like 2 weeks later, like the doctor said you're in great health, and bang, you're in the emergency room. It's absurd, and we over medicate everything. We had an episode talking with a couple therapists about antidepressants and how effective they are. And in Australia, they did a study with about 100,000 participants and found it to be 1.5 times more effective to exercise than to take a drug for your depression. However, you will never see that study in the United States. You will
Yeah.
never see that on any publication. You will never see that in the news. You'll never see that like literally anywhere. Like you have to like dive to find this article, and that's super unfortunate because we've just become a victim to the pharmaceutical complex that basically runs the country at this point. And if you don't believe me, you haven't been paying attention to the last 3 years.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy? I have the like almost the exact same story with my mom. We were somewhere. I think we were on vacation or something like that, and then she felt like she was having a heart attack. We took her to the hospital, and turns out she had a tachycardia. And but it hasn't really been like a big deal since. And both my parents now are kind of mostly carnivore. Uh, but yeah, I have like almost that exact same story with my mom.
Yeah, it's wild, and there's literally no sign of stopping it. Look around the world about who's giving health advice. Look at every single world health minister. The one from Japan actually is not too bad, like physically looking anyway. But like we have these people in positions that are just overweight, obese, and they're giving advice as far as like how you should live your life and what you should do. And here's the guideline for this. And it's like you look like you look like you couldn't go up a flight of stairs without having an issue. Like, and you're gonna tell me like what I should be doing from a health perspective. It's like, oof.
Yeah, I always think that's interesting too because when you look at the doctors that the social media doctors and stuff that suggest veganism and more vegetables and things like that, and then you look at people like Dr. Chafee and Dr. Anthony Chafee and Dr. Sean Baker, and you're just like, I think I'm gonna listen to these guys over here that are just completely jacked and like in their 40s and 50s. Sean Baker, yeah, I think he's still in his 50s, but yeah, they're just eating meat and just jacked, and it's like, I'm gonna go with these guys because like the scrawny malnourished look, I'm not that into.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm the same exact way. Like, so I'm a trainer. So in my industry, like you see, it's I don't know how there's a rise in like fat trainers, and that's not me fat shaming at all. By all means, if whatever you look like, if you're happy, I'm happy for you. Like by all means, like if you would like to solicit advice, I will give you advice and I'll be very direct. However, you shouldn't like you wouldn't go to a barber if he had a bad haircut. Like if your barber had a fucked up haircut, you'd be like, ah, or if you went to a hairdresser and she looked insane, like you'd be a little worried. Same thing if like your surgeon had shaky hands and stuff like that. Yeah, you go to all these other institutions and you see like a really skinny doctor and like, oh, you should cut back on the red meat or maybe don't work out so hard. And it's like, honestly, you look like I could snap you over my fucking knee. Like, no, like I don't listen to you. You listen to me, if anything. If I'm dying and like I need to be resuscitated, by all means, take the wheel. Other than that, like until I get to that point, yeah, like I got the wheel, brother.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people are starting to figure out is that doctors are pretty good at like if you have a broken bone or things like that, but like nutrition, it's like I don't know if you want to listen to a doctor on that one. Like you're probably like finding your own information. People always like rag on you like, oh, you listen to YouTube doctors, you found your online, and it's like, yeah, because all of the things the doctors are learning, like it is available online, like you and I have eyeballs, I can read, like yeah, I don't have like the same training of like reading extensive studies and knowing exactly what every word means and stuff, but like I can comprehend basic ideas, like so I always think that's funny when people like rag on you for like looking into things online. It's like everything's available online. It's dumb to not look into things online.
Yeah, like it's kind of a double-edged sword, that thing there, right? So on the one hand, doesn't matter what you put in WebMD, you have restless leg syndrome is one of the things that's probably going on in your body right now. Right. So, but also like I didn't know this until I started talking to other dietitians. Doctors in medical school really only take about like one credit's worth of nutrition. So they're not like I'm not going to say that doctors aren't in the know on nutrition because obviously I'm sure some doctors like they just take it upon themselves to kind of learn it and stuff like that to, help with their practice and things like that. But like it's not something that's like a focus. Their focus is preventing you from dying. Like you're about to die, here's how we stop it. Like I have 100% confidence if I'm about to die and I'm with a doctor, like the doctor preventing me from dying in that moment.
Yeah.
But I have zero confidence in them preventing like the long journey towards that moment where I'm about to die. Like I have 100% confidence in myself and my lifestyle because I really I find the carnivore diet super interesting because of its autoimmune benefits. People say they love it. They have increased, like literally everything has increased for them. I've been a little reluctant to try it myself because I have literally no, like I've never experienced like any autoimmune issues other than like really really like obviously anxiety isn't an autoimmune issue, but like what my old gut health, I probably 10 years ago I probably would have tried it, and I probably still will try it just because I find it super fascinating and I'd love to see how it feels. However, I've gone through phases and months where I've eaten only red meat as the protein source, and I still have some rice, and I don't eat a ton of carbs, but I'll have it's usually like rice or bananas and so or applesauce usually is what I'm going with. Um, but like there's there's so many people that could have been like that have died honestly throughout like maybe the last 20 years that could have like they could be living a perfectly happy normal life like had they have made there was some dietary intervention as opposed to just shoving Pfizer down their throat. Um, so it's very unfortunate. I honestly like I think of our industry and just kind of the whole health space. I don't. There's not really like a light at at the end of the tunnel for us, in my opinion. I know that sounds kind of bleak, and I'm not. I'm generally not a very optimistic person, but that's not to say that I'm a negative person. I just see things for like what they are. If you look at like AI, and I talk about artificial intelligence and like ChatGPT on here a lot, like there's a lot of things that like we can be replaced because a lot of people aren't paying attention to the health markers and the indicators, so they're becoming useless. And I don't think anyone is useless. However, you can have a lifestyle that is useless and does not contribute anything whatsoever. And I think it's when you take a step back and just view how your food intake and things like that kind of all intertwine, you can kind of see all that stuff there.
Yeah. It's all connected. And I don't necessarily like I don't want to people to think that I'm one of those carnivores that thinks everyone has to be carnivore and that that should be how everyone eats all the time. Like I'm not like that at all. I think that people should try it, like not should, but like if you want to try it, like definitely try it, give it a go. I don't think it's gonna kill you. Like I like if you do try it. So I always recommend like people at least try it for 30 days to see the difference. And a lot of times people don't like it, and I think that's fine. Like go like no, like that doesn't hurt me in any way. But I just think for most people, if you just like remove like the ultra processed foods and the seed oils and the eating like copious amounts of sugar and things like that, like you're going to feel better. And then if you do like replace those things with some fatty red meat, like good quality protein, like you're going to start feeling better. Like you don't necessarily have to just eat meat for every single meal like I do, but like just eat a little more meat and I'm sure you're going to feel a lot better, especially like a lot of people who are really active like you, and men too, like men especially, like they they don't necessarily feel the best on the carnivore because you need that little extra like energy boost, from the carbs to feel like you're getting the best out of your workout and things like that. And I think that's completely fine. And if you don't have any like negative reactions from those foods that you're eating, like go for it. But I definitely think that everyone could benefit from just like incorporating some more red meat into their diet, instead of some more processed food.
Oh yeah. If I would a lot my baseline for starting with clients from a nutrition standpoint is like imagine you were a farmer and you grew everything yourself. Like for starters, all your ingredients should look like you went in your backyard, picked them up, like your food, you got yourself, everything was prepared, like it's not a french fry, it's a potato and things like that. So and then from there you make your decisions based on like what feels good and whatnot. So speaking of which, since we're on the topic, take us through a day in your life as far as like eating from like breakfast to dinner.
Okay, so I normally eat like a couple hours after I get up, I'll start my day off with some decaf coffee though, because I just really like, I don't like regular caffeine because the withdrawal symptoms aren't worth it to me. I do like the taste of coffee though, so I still do drink the decaf. Uh, but I'll start with decaf coffee, and I put a raw egg in my decaf coffee and blend it up and add some salt, and it makes it really like frothy and delicious, almost like a
Ooh.
latte, but there's no dairy or anything in it, for people who don't do dairy. But yeah, I'll blend an egg in it, and then if I don't have the egg, I'll just put some salt in it because salt makes black coffee taste less bitter. So I'll add some salt into my Americano and drink that. And then for breakfast, I usually have, like lately, I've been having ground beef and eggs. I just put some ground beef in a pan and cook it, and then add my eggs and just stir it together. Super
I saw
simple.
you post that, and like, so what's the end result of that look like?
Just a bowl of ground beef. Like, you don't, the eggs don't really scramble. It kind of just gets mixed in with the ground beef, so it's not like super scrambled eggs. So yeah, but that's my philosophy with cooking. Like, I don't like things that are super complicated or take a lot of steps. Like, I'll put a frozen steak in the air fryer. Like, I don't even like thawing meat out. I'll just, like, if the easiest, the simplest thing, I'll do it. So yeah, just some ground beef, crack some eggs in there, mix it up, have that. My husband and I usually split a pound of ground beef with like 5 or 6 eggs, and we'll split it. And then uh, today, though, this morning, I had a can of sardines because I was filming a reel, so I ate a can of sardines for the first time. Which was actually pretty good. It just tasted like tuna. So if you're scared of trying sardines, give it a try because it wasn't.
Super healthy food, by the way. That is a true superfood, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, I actually tried. I had them in my fridge for about a month, and I was really nervous to try them because I'm not a huge fish person in general. I'm not a huge fan of fish, so I was like, oh, I don't want to try these. And then I heard someone talking to Sustainable Dish, Diana Rogers, who's the author of Sacred Cow. He was on her podcast talking about how sardines have a huge amount of creatine, and they're like the best source of creatine. And I was like, oh shoot, okay, I gotta try these, and they weren't that bad. So I'll probably start incorporating more sardines into my diet. Last night for dinner, I had 4 burger patties and scallops. Scallops are probably one of my favorite things to eat. That's like scallops, and now sardines are probably like the only 2 seafoods that I actually like. So I'll eat scallops, hamburger, ground beef, steak. I don't eat a lot of chicken. I'll eat pork on occasion, but I don't eat a ton of pork either. It's mostly just different cuts of beef and things like that.
That's I'm not a huge fan of sardines. For me, like I'm aware that of the health benefits. For me, like the odor would kind of get to me a little bit. Um, Although I probably will have to nut up and try it. Um, I could actually get behind that diet.
Cool.
Like that actually doesn't sound too bad to me. Like I'm listening to it and I'm like super simple. Like, and I've seen other like a lot of if you look up like, hey, carnivore diet, and like, or I'm trying to do this, it's like, oh, just freeze your steak and throw it in the air fryer for like 15 minutes, and it like apparently comes out better than if you thought. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I just like I don't like thawing it, and I forget to thaw it. And sometimes when you like thaw it, if you do it too rapidly, like it has that freezer burn taste to it afterwards when you cook. So, but yeah, no, when you put a frozen steak in the air fryer and cook it, I mean, it tastes delicious. And since it's frozen, it kind of makes it a little crispy too, when the water starts to melt off. So it kind of gives it that little crispiness. But yeah, I like it. I couldn't eat it. I can't eat steaks cooked in the air fryer every single day, because just a steak cooked on a grill is just superior. Any meat cooked on a grill is just superior. So it's definitely not to the same level as grilling a steak, but it'll do. Like if you need dinner and you only have a frozen steak, like it'll do.
For sure. Oh, a grill is top notch. It's undefeated.
Yeah, I could eat steak on a grill every day, but not steak in an air fryer.
Yeah. So let's talk about some myths about this diet, right? And yeah, I'm sure you've run into a bunch of this, right? So probably in no particular order, a big myth for this diet is going to be lack of nutrient diversity.
Nutrient diversity, like so there is, so you can get all of the essential vitamins and minerals that you need from animal products. So there is nothing in plants that you can't get from meat. And meat has everything that you need in a more bioavailable form too, because your body, when you eat the plants, your body has to like convert it, and then it takes out the nutrients, and you're not getting all of the nutrients. Like if a carrot has this many, once it's digested and absorbed into your body, you're not actually getting all of those nutrients from that carrot. Whereas like with meat, your body doesn't have to like, your body can just absorb it the way it is. So you're getting a lot, it's much more bioavailable. So you're getting a lot more nutrients and vitamins and minerals from that. So yeah, animal products have everything that your body needs.
Yeah, for sure. Also, with people forget, depending on the form in which you cook your vegetables, like the nutrient density is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
If you eat it raw versus if you cook it versus if it does like 75 different ways. So like what you think you might be eating might not exactly be the case. Um, the other big one, and I personally love this because there was a study that just came out that kind of debunked it finally, was the risk of chronic diseases, including cancer.
Oh yeah, the cancer one. That one, it just there was no evidence like showing that meat caused cancer. Like all of those like studies that like people are like, oh, meat causes cancer. Meat causes high or lots of red meat causes heart disease and things like that. They're all epidemiological studies, so they're just doing these surveys of like food questionnaire surveys of asking people like, what did you eat, and they come to conclusions based off that. And there's so many issues with that. So there wasn't actually like ever any like real substantial evidence that meat causes cancer. It's just some a myth that you said, like you said, that just goes around and gets repeated by people who are typically against meat, and it because it benefits them, so it gets repeated and people believe it. But no, there is never really any evidence showing that meat causes cancer.
Yeah, a great example of that's around the topic. A great example of what we were talking about earlier, when it's like, hey, there's the gospel, and then you can kind of do your own research and kind of decide for yourself. So the WHO, aka the the World Health Organization, has red meat labeled as a level 1 carcinogen. However, if you do more research, you can find a study that shows that it has no link to breast cancer, diabetes, heart disease, any really any chronic disease that's ever existed. So, perfect example right there of why you should do your research.
And it just doesn't make sense if you think about it. Like humans ate meat. Like we evolved eating meat. And I mean, some vegans do argue that we evolved eating fruits and vegetables, but just seems illogical to me. It's like we evolved eating meat, and these chronic diseases didn't exist until like 100 years ago. So it doesn't make sense that meat all of a sudden is the reason for all these problems.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's like, what do you think happened in like the caveman era?
Yeah,
You thought everyone's like, oh, thank God, like Greg got so many berries, like the whole tribe is gonna feast on berries. Like, no, like Greg got a mammoth. Like,
yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense. Like we evolved eating meat, and we didn't have these chronic diseases until like recently, and it's not meat causing these problems.
yeah. So what's another myth that you run into a lot, or something that like something that might like goes against the diet that someone throws at you?
A lot of people say like you need fiber, which fiber is not essential. You don't need fiber to poop or anything like that. Like obviously, some people do a lot better without fiber. There is another interesting study where they had people who had gut issues, and they separated them into 3 or 4 different groups, and had people eat fiber, and then smaller amounts of fiber, and then no fiber, I believe is what they were. And the people who completely removed fiber out of their diet, all of their gut issues improved. So yeah, fiber is not essential. carbs aren't essential. A lot of people still do think carbs are essential. I think that they have their place if you, especially if you're extremely active and you need a little bit more energy. Like I'm not against people like supplementing with some carbs, but carbs are not essential. And also the cholesterol. A lot of people are worried about their cholesterol, and cholesterol has never been shown to cause heart disease. People, if you ever have someone that tells you cholesterol causes heart disease, you cannot show causation. It just a study to show causation would be extremely unethical and would never be approved. So anyone that says definitively that cholesterol causes heart disease does not know what they're talking about, so don't believe them. Cholesterol has never been proven or shown to cause heart disease, and we're actually learning a lot more about cholesterol now, or at least this information is finally coming to the public. We've known it for a long time, but it's finally kind of breaking into the public that like cholesterol is actually not this villain. It's essential. If you don't have cholesterol, you die. Low cholesterol is actually linked to a lot more uh, like negative things than high cholesterol. I believe like I don't remember the exact number, but it was like more people died of heart attacks with like normal to low cholesterol than high cholesterol. I forget the exact number though, and or percentage. So the cholesterol one is usually a big factor for people because that seems to be like the biggest thing pushed, and doctors always like push the statins. Like your cholesterol is one little thing over, and it's like statin, statin, statin.
Yeah.
So that's the top one usually.
Oh yeah. Like my buddy hit me that with that the other day, and I was like, "God, come on, bro. Like you got to listen to the podcast."
Yeah. That's about it. I can't think. Do you? If you know any more, I might be missing one, but those are usually the big ones. Is and then it's like, oh, and then I get like half the internet says that I'm gonna just have chronic diarrhea from eating meat, and then half the internet's like chronic constipation. So like it's always like one or the other. They can't make up their mind. So it's like there's nothing consistent about all of the arguments against this way of eating. It's like always like one side or the other, which is another funny thing that just makes it seem like, hey, maybe I'm onto something because none of the arguments actually make any sense.
Most arguments in anything health and fitness related never make sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Like so many of them. Like this works, that works, this doesn't work, that's gonna kill you. You're gonna die from this. Like there was a phase, probably in like early 2010, where like every single thing that you would eat would kill you. Didn't matter. Like there was a vegetable that would kill you. There was a meat that would kill you. You'd die from a Pop Tart. You'd die from like eggs were like smoking cigarettes. So like
yeah.
it's like good grief.
I think you just have to think about what would our ancestors eat, like eat that. I feel like they got us so far. It's like, why are we trying to change things now? They got us so far, eating the things that they ate. We evolved into these like crazy smart humans. So don't turn your backs on them now. Like agriculture has just been around for like a little blip. Like we don't need to go around changing things. Just like eat the meat, eat like your, like you said, like the real food, not agriculture, but like processed foods and stuff like that. Like you grow and like you create these processed foods. Um, but yeah, like eat real food. Like I don't care if you're carnivore, but just like eat one ingredient foods. Your foods don't need to have an ingredient list. Like you can go to the store, buy a carrot if that's the ingredient, or buy a steak and that's the ingredient, and then you can like make food from that. But like you don't need to go with like a get a package of a whole long ingredient list. I think if people remove that from their diet, they'd probably be a whole lot healthier.
Yeah, we're looking at you. I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, and margarine. Isn't like one? I don't know if that's true, but is it, so people have told me like it's one is it margarine that's like one molecule away from plastic or something like that? I don't
Yeah.
remember. It's so scary.
Yeah, if you're looking for if you're buying all that kinds of crazy shit, like that's an easy one. Just look at the ingredient list on just butter.
Yeah, because even butter is hard to find good quality butter nowadays. They put unnecessary things in foods, and it's so frustrating. Because like before I went carnivore, one of my favorite things was biscuits and gravy. Of course, I would eat gluten-free biscuits and gluten-free gravy because they put gluten in gravy. But and then I found through a guy called Carnivorous Chef. he makes carnivore gravy. And literally all you have to do is mix heavy cream and cream cheese into a pan and stir it, and it thickens and becomes the most delicious gravy that you've ever had. So all of that other stuff that they put into it, the gluten and additives and stuff, is completely unnecessary. And it's so frustrating. Like sometimes my husband will get like ice cream and stuff from the store, and or he got creme brulee I think last night, and I was looking at the ingredients, and there's soybean in it. And like creme, you can make creme brulee. It's like it's what is it? It's like milk and eggs and sugar. It's like you need like three ingredients to like actually make it. It's like why are you adding soybeans into it? It's
Yeah.
completely like so a lot of times like food you have to like really check the labels. And jerky too, like a lot of carnivores will eat jerky as a snack, and there'll be like some crazy ingredients added into jerky. So it's like you're better off just like making it at home, making it yourself. You can control the ingredients because with the butter at stores too, they'll add weird things into the butter too instead of just butter. Like all you need is like cream to make butter.
If the butter that you want is two ingredients. It's what is it? It's milk and cream.
Yeah, sometimes salt if you want salted butter.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't be very long, but Red 44 is pretty fucking delicious. So whatever chemical that is, that shit is amazing. No.
Yeah, but it's they design it to be that way. They design it to be addictive so that you'll want it and want to eat more, and you can't just eat one. Those things. So it's I think when a lot of people realize that too, they start to open their mind to more possibilities of looking at what they're eating because those foods from in the stores are from the marketing to the taste to everything. It's designed to like make you keep coming back for more because it's about money. It's not about your health or anything like that. It's about the bottom line, the business's bottom line.
Yeah. Yep. Again, follow that money trail. Do your research.
Yeah.
Um. So just quick break time out. Was there anything else you wanted to cover, or like?
No, I think that's good. I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah, this has been pretty dope.
Yeah.
This has been one of the more enjoyable episodes for me. I'm sure for the listeners it will be as well. It's a topic that I've kind of come to fall in love with, right? So I am all for anyone going on the carnivore diet. If you're listening and you've dealt with some of the issues that Jess has been talking about, it could be worth a shot to help you out. Whether you have all of them, whether you have one or two, uh, those are usually going to be lagging indicators of something wrong with your gut. So definitely take a look at that and see if the research leads you down a path, or maybe you can make some kind of intervention that's better than starving yourself, better than being sad, depressed, dealing with some of the issues that she was talking about. So where can people find you?
I am most active on Instagram, just Jesslyn Randle. And I yeah, that's you that's basically where I am, just Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. I don't use too much. I don't use too much social media much anymore. I use Instagram. I post here and there. Deleted my Facebook. I use Twitter for headlines. But anyway, I digress. So it's been real. Again, episode about the carnivore diet. Probably one of the most enjoyable episodes we've done. Big thank you to Jess for joining us today. Make sure you go give her a follow. I'll link her Instagram in the description of this video. And yeah, we're good to go.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. You've been great.